guys, we are back again with the final episode of the NSMQ Review Show Special Edition. My name is Jacqueline Du Baffour, your host for today's special, and this segment will focus on everything grand finale of the 2024 championship. We are live from London, UK, Accra, Ghana, and Calgary, Canada. And we do have representatives from PRSEC, St. Augustine's, and Mfantsipim. Of course, our fan favorite, based in Maryland, will also be coming back as a special guest. And we do also have one special guest representing from the NSMQ team based in Accra. We want to know where you're watching from, so please post your comment and please do not forget to subscribe to our social media handle. Before I introduce my amazing guest, please allow me to take this opportunity to acknowledge our incredible sponsors. The National Science and Maths Quiz is proudly sponsored by the Ghana Education Service in partnership with Gold PLC and supported by Joy News, Pepsodent, Due Pay Money Transfer, Prudential Life Insurance Ghana, Bettermalt, ALX, Kivo, Bell Beverages, Flora Tissues, Coronation Insurance, Accra College of Medicine, University of Mines and Technology UMAT, Academic City University College, PMMC Jury, GTP, CHAS, YFMN Girl Mark Foundation. Indeed, it is a primetime production, actually my favorite part. Right, so let's meet my guest. For today's discussion, I'm joined by Emmanuel Gamore, who is an old student of the former champions Presbyterian Boys Secondary School. Emmanuel works as a digital channels senior manager at MTN Ghana and is also a lecturer at the University of Stellenbosch, Cape Town in South Africa. Emmanuel, you're so brave to come on the show considering your school's underwhelming performance this year.
First of all, thank you so much, Jackie, for inviting me. As a proud of that year, it's exciting to be here. It's also exciting to represent the most winning contestant in school of the NMSQ. I also want to applaud your audience because we know that this is a time that the quiz brings a lot of unity, solidarity, and allows us to spotlight some of the brilliance of all candidates as well. So my bravery is to come and celebrate the contestants, the teachers, the real heroes of the quiz. And for us, we were not only regional champions, but also semifinalists and a tiebreaker that doesn't happen often. And to the school that beat us credits, they ended up becoming the eventual winners. So off my hat to Mfantsipim and all that they do. Excited to be here. We constantly, 8 times now, and our right to be representing our school. So it's not bravery, it's an honor, and I'm happy and privileged to dutifully show up. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Gamore. Joining him is Aaron Richard Ashen, the social media manager of the NSMQ, also a marketing coordinator at MTN Accra, Ghana. Aaron is also an old student of St. Augustine's College. Aaron, it's good to have you here. I think we want to know all the gossip from the ground. Have you got any gossip for us?
I think whatever you guys heard is what's happened. This year, I would characterize the competition in probably 3 words: a fair playing ground, shocking, and probably satisfactory. Quickly, a fair playing ground because this year every team or every school no school was a walkover. Just a couple there are very few situations where you'd get that situation, but generally every school came to the competition, on a very high note. Shocking because you weren't expecting some teams or some schools to be beaten at certain points. Not that I didn't expect the schools to be beaten at all, but at certain point in the competition. APAM, Adesadel, who was Ghana National. I'll go on and on when we go deeper into the conversation. And satisfactory because everybody was satisfied PRSEC wasn't in the final. That's very satisfactory. That's because we're tired of seeing them in the final all the time. We wanted new faces in the final. And so we didn't see them, and everybody was satisfied with that. Everybody who went into the final, or every school who was in the final, were schools that people wanted to see. Then, I mean, new faces. So yeah, satisfactory, fair playing ground, and shocking for this year.
Wow, that's a lot of goss you've given us, Aaron. And finally, we have Godfrey Ashen. He's an old student of the reigning champions in Mfantsipim School, the school, and he also works as an oil and gas project applications specialist at Stage Completion Inc. He's based in Calgary, Canada. Godfrey, thank you so much for being with us today. How is everyone in Canada? I feel like Canadians are stealing all of our best students at the moment. Is that a fair assumption?
Maybe so. Thanks, thanks
Maybe.
again. Thanks again for having me, Jacqueline. Yeah, it's getting cold out here, so we're trying to keep ourselves warm. But yeah, we are very excited. Mfantsipim winning this year it's been long coming. It's been 10 years. We've been in this drought season for a while, so we are we are very excited that we've had the opportunity to win this year, and we have the bragging rights for the next year. Especially being able to beat our actual rivals to Ogasco, it's amazing.
Absolutely. So obviously this year has been full of the biggest upset, twist and turn, some really dramatic moments that still lingers in my mind, right? But let me just start off with you, Aaron. You've been on the ground, you've witnessed everything, all the emotions, all the challenges. What's your general view of the grand finale, which happened about a week ago?
I feel it was like I said in the beginning, it was a fair one. Every school that got there deserved to be there, especially in Mfantsipim, because if you check the schools that Mfantsipim had to beat to get to the final, there was no doubt they should have been there, running two tiebreakers. And what people don't even remember is their first contest, that's with UPSA, it went down to the wire. So Mfantsipim throughout, prior to the final, had shown that resilience and that, fighting spirit, So, I mean, every single school, St. Augustine's, exceptional performance. I mean, going into the final. Keita also been exceptional. However, people have that perception that Keita had the easiest route through it all because, and I mean, there are marks and there are records to show for it. Their semi-final contest was arguably the easiest one. Their 1-8, their quarterfinal. I mean, they had a very smooth journey into the final. So, but I mean, it still doesn't take away the fact that getting there, they really deserved it. So all three schools had to be there. I think this is one of the best finals I've ever seen since I joined in 2016. It was very close. The speed race, it was that contest that you can't just take your eyes off it, and the drama that's engulfed it because then you are thinking since I guess since it's in the lead, they get to the riddles. Mfantsipim answers one riddle. They are thinking, okay, what happens next? Then Keita does the undoable, the shocking thing. I told my fellow Augustine's guys that I don't think the Ogasco guys knew the answer because if you do, you would have rang your bell. Or even if they did, they were being very tactical about it. Personally, I felt Keita shouldn't have answered that final riddle. Leave it to Mfantsipim, But you can't also tell people how to play their strategy. You can't tell people how to go about their game plan. That's not your call. That's how they decide to answer. And besides, answering questions in the riddles gives you, some cash. So why not? If I'm not going to get the trophy, why not get the cash? But generally, the final was a good one. It was nice to watch. It was a very close contest. And if you go through it, you'd realize why people do say, okay, Keita had probably the easiest route, and St. Augustine's and Mfantsipim, went through the hardest ones. But I feel it was a good one, a very entertaining one, if you ask me.
Absolutely. And I just want to, Aaron, sort of expand on one of the questions on here, right? And this is for you. St. Augustine's, which you're an old student of, were actually leading after the fourth round with 2 points ahead. To be frank, I think most people thought, Augusta was going to take the trophy. How did everything come crashing down for the team?
Okay, so I'd run something by you, right? We'll start all the way from Central Regional Championships. St. Augustine's in their semi-final contest for the Central Regional Championship faced had the same narrative. They led from round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, and in round 5, Adesadel came to beat them. I'm trying to get the score for you, but I think it was 39-43 around. So Adesadel actually won that contest in the riddles. If you check 1-8, they didn't really do so much in the riddles. In the quarterfinal stage too, same thing. In fact, in the semi-final stage, the only reason why National didn't beat them was because the gap they had, or the point they had accumulated in rounds 1 to 4, was so much that even if National decided to answer everything, they wouldn't have catch up with them. But even in that case, National closed, I think, more than a 9 points gap to a 3 points gap. So, everybody who had watched them knew that St. Augustine's College had a riddle problem. I personally had a conversation with a teacher there, and he told me, yes, they know they do. So probably they are going to open the gap. And they tried doing that. It's just unfortunate that so that riddle problem has been there, or has been with them since the central, as far back as the Central Regional Qualifiers, where they lost to Adesadel. They didn't answer any of them in the semi-finals. The quarterfinals was a bit shaky, same as the 1-8. So they knew their problem. They just met a school who is, way better, or Keta also didn't do justice to them. So St. Augustine's College, perhaps they killed the contest by the fourth round. By the fourth round, they have enough points accumulated that they don't even worry themselves, in the riddles. There is that conversation of, one of the contestants wasn't even a biology student. He was an IT student with physics, chemistry, e-maths options, and the guy who comes in, the Boafo guy, Nana Benin Boafo, is in Form 2. And that's something people, with NSMQ, it's a knowledge-based approach. Sometimes you should be at a certain level to actually get certain things or know about certain things. So that Form 2 strategy, yes, it works, but sometimes it's a disadvantage because you need to be at a set, although you might be younger and still read about certain things. You need to be at a certain level to know about certain things. So they knew they had a riddle problem. Nobody will tell, everybody who had followed this year keenly will tell you that St. Augustine's College had a riddle problem. They don't have a problem beating you from rounds 1.
Great stuff, Aaron. I feel like you've given us a whole thesis. We very much appreciate that. Let me just move on to Godfrey. Godfrey, congrats, right? I'm sure you must be feeling proud of winning the trophy after 10 good years. Do you think the competition being hosted in Cape Coast contributed to your win, and also to a lot of the Central Region schools doing really well? We saw, I think, 4 schools getting into the semi-finals, which is probably a record for a region to get that, to have that many schools that far.
Yeah.
So do you think you had a home advantage, and how did you utilize that to your, to good use?
Yeah, no, I definitely think it really did contribute to, like you said, generally you find that most of the, or some of the Central Region schools, advanced a lot. And I think it's the support from, the city, the people from the city, all students, Cape Coasters, people wanted to see that. And I believe it was the first time hosting, the NSMQ in Cape Coast. So I think there was that energy from the people in Cape Coast and from people who attended schools in Cape Coast. So you would find that, some schools came together, schools were knocked out. I believe most people in Adisa were supporting Oga School to win. We in Mfantsipim also had some of the schools in Cape Coast backing us, supporting us. So I think that besides the fact that the people who went in were intelligent, they were smart, knowledgeable, they had this advantage with support from the people. And I think that kind of boosts the morale to win something, at least for the region, for the city. So I think it went far in helping the schools to advance and do well.
Absolutely. And what's the kind of mood within the camp at the moment? Have you, celebrated? I'm sure you've got WhatsApp groups and platforms that, celebrations have been posted on. Can you summarize the mood for us in the camp?
It's been exciting. I've seen some on social media. I believe it was yesterday or probably a couple of days ago, seeing the students and some of the teachers go out into our Augustin Penny, who is the Mobile National president. I'm trying to remember. I think they went to another company. So they are basically touring around and showing. I think they went to the Methodist Church as well. The new presiding bishop of the Methodist Church. So we are showing our wins around. I mean, our trophy around, and it's been exciting. On our platforms too, we are talking about it as well.
Great. And is it going to take another 10 years?
No.
When?
No. The drought is over. I think I recall looking at a video of one of our old students, and he predicted last year that we're going to win, and he actually predicted that to 2030. So I don't have that kind of feed yet, but I want to believe for next year. So we are going to do another back-to-back.
Let's hope so, because I feel like when Mfantsipim started the competition this year, they were probably seen as an underdog at the start. I think if you look back from the 1-8 onwards, you saw Ogasco, Owas, who were scoring really, really high points, right? I don't think Mfantsipim's name was like mentioned among, sort of the big six who were gonna, make it a bit further. So it's quite incredible they managed to overpower certain schools, one being PRSEC and Prempeh. But thank you, Godfrey. Let me come back to Gamore. Gamore, so PRSEC has won it, we know, many times, 8 times, which is a record. They've also made it to the finals 12 times at this point, right? Leading to 5 consecutive grand finale. And also they've won it back-to-back twice. How do you summarize their performance this year? Because I feel like PRSEC is the Real Madrid of the Champions League. If you do not win or get to the final, it's not good enough. So how do you summarize their performance, and what do you think they lacked at the semifinals?
Well, thanks, Jacqueline. I think for me, it's really interesting to hear the different insights. So even from Aaron Richards' points about everyone excited to see new faces in the finals, or that sentiment goes to share about almost like how dominant the team or the PRSEC team has been, not only in representing, but also having a fairly recent back-to-back. So my year group in 2003 also won with my dorm mates, Risa Abdullahi and Michael BP. So it was an interesting, amazing time, because I remember choosing PRSEC because I had watched some of the NMSQ competitions. Back then it was Brilla and JSS. For me, I think it's one of the competitions where we look at averages and scores. One of the rumors or sentiments is about home court advantage, and we saw some of the most contested, heated follow-up results in Kumasi against Prempeh as well, and we were also involved. And then this time, it was actually a 53-53 tiebreaker that got Mfantsipim over the line, also home court advantage. Central region. So for those who may be conspiracy theorists, it seems as if whenever PRSEC is up against strong competition and home court advantage, at least in recent history, there seems to be a general sentiment against PRSEC. We understand the bar is high. We've set it that way. And sometimes it does take a bit of confidence. I think Aaron talked about things like riddles. When do you press the bell? When are you penalized? And we've seen that traditionally we've had quite dominant candidates coming from PRSEC. This year, they seemed not to be as dominant or as forward as we've seen in previous almost like competitions. But I think it was the quizzes or the way that the quiz is now structured to penalize guessing. And I think that also helps because sometimes in the past, maybe candidates would press the bell without knowing, but because you're being penalized for some of those things, now there's a bit more caution, and some of the questions are not repeated. So in the past, those who were almost students of the quiz and had access could almost predict what questions were coming. And you can see that because there's a national attention for the quiz, some of the questions, honestly, if you ask some alumni, even professionals, it'll be difficult if you're not studying them to be able to come up with the answers. So a couple of things, moving it away, yes, it doesn't take from our performance. We're annually in the finals, we're regional champions. We've been finalists. This year's quiz was a point break or a tie break point away from us repeating the 12th to 13-time finals. But what I would rather say is kudos to the teams because the quality of contestants. So the points are shared. If we got 5 points and everybody else got 0, we would win the competition. But as we saw with the Itasco students from there, and really applaud them because mixed schools and having women representative is such a joy for us. So nothing against either of the Cape Coast schools, which the region is a bastion of education. But to see women representation in Itasco, even if they didn't win this time, definitely doff our hats off to them as well for that inclusion that they bring into young talents, young brilliance on there. In terms of our space, I think we also acknowledge that we were almost we were almost becoming the protagonist.
Was it getting boring, Emmanuel?
Absolutely. If people were betting, I'm sure people have Aviator and NMSQ bets. They would, to your point about Real Madrid, they would bet their horses on PRSEC, knowing that even if in certain competitions we're struggling a little bit, we would come forward. There were a few times that we didn't do as well in Problem of the Day where some of the responses were a bit off. And I think that comes from the framework. Sometimes creative thinking and others that comes into it might not necessarily get you the marks. And also, I suspect, and this is another rumor, that having schools like Prep and others challenge the quiz results, especially when they were contentious, has upped the type of questions that are being asked. So to the earlier point that the questions are not simple anymore. Back then, you could maybe say, oh, I had this in biology class. This is from physics. Sometimes you're like, wait a minute, the preamble alone is a whole titration formula. So that's the level of questioning has really been increased. But I honestly enjoyed the performance from our guys. We had a bonfire shortly afterwards. For us, we also appreciate the general talent pool that comes from the competition. And we're also excited to see the academic opportunities that PRSECs have enjoyed. In the past, you would see some of the contestants wanting to go abroad, but you're seeing local universities, of which PRSECs are also now alumni, giving scholarships that allows some of that talent to be kept in-house. So it's not so much that PRSEC didn't, yes, we didn't get the trophy, but it wasn't a disappointing performance. And then we would also look into that home court, home turf indicator over the last previous years.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Gamore, for the very in-depth analysis. For our viewers based in the US, if you'd like to provide monetary support to any of the schools, please use DuePay Money Transfer with the code name of the school, which can be found on our Twitter or Facebook pages. We just want everyone to have the same opportunity, and that can only be done by investing in our young boys and girls. As the saying goes, every little helps. Thank you. So let me just come back to Aaron, right? I know Mr. Gamore gave us a very impressive analysis on Cater School. We know previously Cater, in the past probably 4 or 5 years, they've been to the grand finale twice, and they fielded a female candidate. Do you think this is a strategy, of course, some of the mixed schools can adopt moving forward?
I don't know if it should be a strategy if probably the standard or the level of competence they need is found in a few. I don't think it's more of a female conversation when it comes to that. But I would what's it called, encourage, because so let's do this small history lesson here. In 2016, we had 2 amazing female contestants in the name of Salma and Kezia, who represented Ghana National. They broke the record for 1/8. They had very impressive marks and went straight to the semifinals. The next person I'll think of is Zuera Baba from Tamale SHS, 2018, I think. Also amazing contest, 2017, 2018, one of them. Amazing contestants. The next one should be Tamale SHS again for Anjali Rator in 2019. So I wouldn't say it's a strategy, but we've fielding a female contestant, as long as they have that competence, why not? They would do, they should include them, because at the end of the day, it's a competition that you want to win. So yeah, but Keita has done very well all the times, or as far as you know, all the times they've been to the final in recent years. There was a lady there, so probably that's their trick, or that's their path to success. But in doing this, I'd also want us to make up all the schools, all the mixed schools who failed female contestants and have gone on to do well. Also, Wesley girls who in the past 2 or 3 years have also been in the semi-final with 2 female power beating the boys left and right. So should it be a strategy? As long as they fit the criteria, they fit the standard, why not?
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Aaron. Godfrey, Mr. Champion, let me just come back to you, right? I'm sure your school has been perfecting various strategies over time to be able to, come back after 10 years. And I'm sure you saw the grand finale, right? What kind of strategies did you see that you would advise the students and the teachers to preserve for more future victories?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Jacqueline. I think that from the sense I got from this was that there was more involvement with the old students and dwelling for them dwelling on past experiences and learning from past experiences. I think it did help to build some confidence in the students and in the people in the quiz team. The other thing too I saw, like we've just mentioned, like we had 2 tiebreakers. The final came to something around that thing, in terms of the riddles, right? And what I saw was that the guys were willing to take chances. They were quite confident in approaching the riddles. So I think that what I saw was that the riddles too was a strategy for them, right? If we lose, if we don't perform well in the other rounds, at least in the final round, we make sure that we get the riddles and we make sure that we take chances. And I think it's a good strategy. And like we just said, I think with Augustin, these are just assumptions, but maybe they were just waiting, right? Waiting to answer the last riddle, and Keita took advantage of that. But so I would encourage the guys to go with that strategy, taking the chance. If you have the answers. One of the things too, I think their substitutions were good. I think they knew the strength of each of the candidates, and when they needed to make those strategic substitutions, it helped them out. I think the last thing I would say was that there was leadership. I really like, I believe it's Isaac Mensah. I think the guy is very confident in his approach. He mentions that he's a shy person and all of that, but I saw boldness. I saw that he's very confident in giving answers and stuff like that. So I could see leadership from all the 3 guys, commitment and working together to make sure they succeed. So those are some of the things that I saw with them.
Absolutely. I see leadership takes courage, and it can go quite far. Mr. Gamore, you ready for this? Right. I'm pretty much sure PRSEC has gone back to the drawing board, right? Reviewing what went wrong, what didn't go well. So what do you think they need to do to come back stronger next year?
Actually, so one of our trade secrets is that we're similar
Oh,
to
you're
the
going to
Chinese.
tell us your trade secrets? I mean,
Well,
go ahead. Sure.
so one of the trade secrets is that we're similar to the Chinese, where we think in more like decades and centuries rather than reactive. Because if you have something that's worked for you, and we've been regional champions and semifinalists and took a point and home court advantage to contest, then you don't necessarily have to rechange or completely throw the baby with the bathwater. You just have to be reflective and understand. One of the things that is interesting is the riddles, to the point that Godfrey was also speaking about, confidence building. Sometimes some of the students come with it. And I think even in the last championship, you have siblings who may have paused in the finals, and then the younger brother has even that extra umph that you probably didn't expect because it was lesson learned, right? So for us, because of that long-term approach, we don't necessarily feel like this was a blip or anything like that, but we then have the input and the experience of these contestants, their knowledge, their failings. They may probably have a few things where they thought of or interpreted and answered differently, but then they come back and give back to the team because they know that this is a long-term project, not necessarily an experimental reaction here and there. So yes, we hear the fans. We know that people appreciate that it was new faces, but we're steadfast in knowing who we are. As you mentioned, perennial champions and representatives. And so for us, I think it's more tweaks of what can we do to help the next set of boys think a bit faster? What can we do to help them feel more comfortable? Sometimes you can even hear the bell and they ring it, and one of the professors or the quiz mistress would say, but I didn't ask you to ring it. And you're looking around and you're like, what happened? It's just the nerves. Sometimes it can even be for home court. Sometimes it can be a different region. Little nuances, because at that level, and that's what we're seeing at the competition, at the level where everyone is excellent, it's the little things that may give you a bit of confidence, right? In the past, it was the little things like, I've had this question before, so I'm confident in it. Now, it's the little things like, okay, this is a space where we've seen some candidates go through this. This is a framework that may add that maybe 0.5 seconds in some of the fast spaces, or the framework that, okay, in articulating the right answer, these are the steps. When even in examining the problem of the day, people are taking their pens and remembering and then even challenging the quiz mistress on X. Those are different nuances that in the previous years, it didn't happen. So we have that experience because we've been to the finals for so long, and we have candidates to reflect on it at the little iterative pursuit of excellence, not necessarily we're going to now change things and become something new. No, the same brand of Presbyterian Boys Secondary School, the same brand of Ghanaian excellence, the same brand of Christian gentlemen would continue to exude as our boys move forward throughout the competition.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Gamore. Viewers, you've heard, right? You need to plan in advance. That's one of the trade secrets. It's out there. Godfrey, I want to pick on your brain, right? You've been working in oil and gas industry for a very long time. What role does, STEM or the National Science and Maths quiz play in our, younger generation sort of being educated and also going into the corporate world? So how does that play in oil and gas or the field that you work in at the moment?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that question. I think that, we are creating more interest in STEM, and it helps to get more people, into STEM. Some of the problems that we have in our surroundings, in our environment, especially in Ghana, would need people who are experts in STEM to provide solutions to some of these issues that we have. I quite remember some of the questions. There was a question on plastic waste, for instance, right? And the quiz mistress mentioned that, like, if you know why some of these issues are there, you can be able to provide solutions to them. So I think that it's very relevant to create that interest. In the past, we've had these ideas that it's very difficult. Mathematics is very difficult. some ladies to date will tell you they will never even want to, or at least my mates and stuff like that, they will never even want to do maths when they come back to the world again and stuff like that. But at these competitions, I think, create interest in the subjects, and it's good that we are creating that interest for people to get into it. There are a lot of things, like, again, in oil and gas, in back home in Ghana, there are a lot of experts even right now in our field that we can count on. I believe, like, Ghanaians that can contribute to the country, that have learned a lot, that can teach a lot to the younger generation to actually make good use, that we don't depend on foreign countries or foreign companies to explore, for instance, our oil and gas. We can do it, like, we can learn, we can train ourselves and do it and get the money in our country. We don't expect that companies will come into our country, drill our wells, produce, and take the money out of the country. So I think that it's very important, and I'm really excited about competitions like these, that it drives us to those subjects and to make sure that we can do our best to provide solutions for some of the issues that we have in our country.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Godfrey. Mr. Gamore, in telecom industry, how does the maths and science play a role, and how can the next generation prepare themselves to, hopefully drive, sort of to get into the telecommunication industry, or to get a professional role at MTN or any of its competitors?
Yeah, thank you so much. And this is a question that I'm sure my brother Aaron can also chip in on. But two things. One would be to piggyback off what Godfrey shared. I think the competition has been exciting. One of the things people don't speak about the impact of the NMSQ is the copycat quizzes, things like the Shark Quiz, which is for general arts and general knowledge, the business competitions, some of them the debate ones, because people see the spotlights and opportunities and sponsorship that science students get, and then they also now mimic it for students who primarily study in other subjects. And so to have this brand be something that is nationally celebrated, alumni can piggyback off on. And for those of you who are watching, there are other quizzes and other competitions, of which PRSEC also excels. So you can see that as a framework of excellence, not just limited to STEM alone, but to other ones, business case scenarios, moot courts, folks in the legal careers, and that allows that confidence and build up for extracurricular activities that adds to the academic experience. In our field, so telecoms is switching, because I think primarily back in the day, quite a number of people in the telecom space would be engineering, telecom engineers, mass towers, but we're transitioning to become data companies. So it's your problem solving, thinking, analytics, your creative space, some of the work that Aaron and his team do on the marketing space, talk about communication and things that are creative, right? And so for those who didn't necessarily do titration and doing beakers and physics and core stuff, but did things like graphic design thinking, architecture, I manage UI UX managers, and you can find a spectrum of people, those who are architecture based, folks who are into visual arts, as well as folks who have probably done plant botany because of the tagging naming convention that applies to UI UX. And all of them can find space within a user experience, user journey. And same thing with coders and developers. You can find people who are English majors who understand the structure of sentencing. So general arts and others, linguistic-minded people who understand how words are stitched together, be able to understand how the logic, Boolean logic, cascading logic sheets and others work when you're coding as well. So for us, it's really exciting to see STEM, STEAM, but then the application of these things in conversation. Sometimes, to your point, when the quiz mistress makes a connection and says, are you paying attention to what is around you? Are you applying these things? And also, we must remember, for some of these students, it almost creates a sense of purpose. So I was saying that our approach, before they even come into the school, I picked PRSEC because, shameless plug, most of the men in my family went to Mfantsipim. So you can imagine the trolling I received when we were leading in the final competition. And you can imagine at 53-53 when I thought that, Adonai, but it's fine. God is great and we accept it. But what it does is that when you acknowledge that the students come into school aspiring to go beyond just grades, showing up and writing an exam. And you also realize that organizations like Ghana Think, organizations that we're a part of, have an opportunity to mentor and encourage students that may have different paths even as they grow along. So the three candidates in my year group, Elam Sechi, Laboni House 6, Rizab Delai, Park House, and then Michael BP Banasan, even though they're working in tech or working in different spaces, the opportunities that they've gotten out of that is not just in STEAM or STEM. And so you can see that the application of themselves to speaking confidently, challenging themselves beyond the environment has shown in the successes that they've had in their young adult life. And for me, the opportunity for young people to present themselves for that education, which is extracurricular, in addition to their academia, is a wonderful thing. And I would love to see more people, more sponsors, especially if you're passionate about an area of interest, come through, because it helps telecommunication businesses, businesses in manufacturing, businesses that need to be digital, data-driven, or even businesses that need to be empathetic. Because you have to, for those of you in biology, medicine, and we need to figure out that technology has to meet people. So that becomes a pipeline for which we have some of the best and brightest minds be employed and engaged in our country. Thank
Lovely.
you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gamore. Right, guys, I'm gonna take you through a 2025 journey, right? Predictions. And let's please keep it as brief because I know this panelist can talk. So let me just start off with you, Aaron. Next year, which three schools do you think will end up getting to the finals?
So quick note here, one thing I don't do in NSMQ after a disgraceful 2022 prediction era is to predict. Because this year, there was a point where everybody thought the semi-final contest of the last lane will be was St. Augustine's and I think Wesley Girls or Best School. And like I said in the beginning, NSMQ has taught me to handle shocks. So I'm not going to predict anything.
No predictions?
I feel PRSEC is going to come back because the last time they didn't win, they came back and won back to back. So probably a PRSEC comeback, that I can assure you. But for the rest, please. However, there is the OWAS guy. This will be his third. I mean, if he comes next, that will be his third time contested. I feel he will have that personal desire to get to. So probably at the worst, and the Augustin guy informed too. So but PRSEC, I'm sure they will come back into the final. But I'll stay on this prophetic ministry for now.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. We appreciate that. You tried your best. Godfrey, do you think Mfantsipim is going to be the three schools that makes it to the grand finale in 2025? And which other two schools would you pick? That's your non-biased opinion, right?
That is, I don't think so. But I'm believing that Mfantsipim is going to do a back-to-back. Yes, to Aaron's point, I believe PRSEC is going to fight back. So I believe PRSEC will also be in the finals. For some reason, when I watched Ghana National, I think it was the semis, I was really fascinated. So I'm also believing that Ghana National could make it to the finals next year.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Mr. Gamore, we want your predictions.
I'm grateful I have one of the easiest to start off with. I think that for us, we have a strong alumni team, and yes, now the NMSQ quiz is part of our identity. So it's a rallying call to really push. Again, the young boys who are up next for the next few years, and those ones who are watching us either on Facebook, online, who want to be PRSECans, are going to make us proud. I'm still batting my hat on, or doffing my hat to Catasco. I also know that they have a pipeline that they've tried to really push. It wasn't as strong as showing in the finals, but I think that they have an opportunity to show up again. With the Cape Coast schools, part of what I worry about is, and maybe we don't talk about it as much, there's so many good schools that is a war of attrition. By the time they get to the finals, they may be a little, not that Accra is so bad, but if you think about the type of schools that are in Cape Coast alone, it really is an educational hub. And so I think that there's something about fighting off in the regionals, which is hotly contested, that wears some of them out a bit. And so that's what may cancel them out. But it would be nice to see Butcher come in and be in the finals and get the lashing they deserve that we most likely will give them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gamore. So also briefly, Godfrey and Gamore, do you have any final words of encouragement for your schools? Starting off with Godfrey.
I think that the boys did great. I like the confidence. I think that this level of competition, it's really demanding. So again, it's not just on your intellectual prowess, right? It's confidence, it's being patient, it's a lot of skills, and they were able to handle that pressure, right? Like being in a tiebreaker and deciding to take the risk to answer first, in the semis. It's amazing what they've achieved. My encouragement is, they learn the lessons. They made some mistakes, and I'm sure we won't lie to ourselves that we didn't make any mistakes. So they will learn their mistakes, learn from that mistakes, impart that knowledge to the batch of students coming up so that they can perform better. So that would be my encouragement to them. They did great. They should, learn from their mistakes, learn the lessons in there. I think that the things that they've learned from this competition is even, beyond the competition. It's a lifetime thing, right? So they can pass it on to that next batch and keep being better.
Thank you, Godfrey. And Gamore?
Thank you. Heavy lies the head that wears the crown. I think there are very few even athletic teams that have won as consistently. I can think of maybe WNBA teams. You mentioned Real Madrid, few of those. What that does is that your need to go beyond even the normal in competition and to push yourself beyond limits is really important. And I think for us, it's also a lesson in maintenance and excellence culture. So I encourage a lot of the teams and others, things that we may think make us regional champions and get us to the semis may not be enough to get us over to finals anymore. So it's an opportunity for us to hunker down. But again, like our brothers have said, every candidate that even makes it, if you remember what it was like to be in boarding school, to even be selected, to be part of the competition, it is absolutely hectic. And to know that now the quiz also has psychologists and therapists to help students deal with the disappointment, right? So the advice to them is, all of you are winners by participating and putting a foot forward. Each of us, everybody's school is really proud just to see candidates. Talked about the girls from Wesley Girls and others. We talked about Kitasco and Mfantsipim. It's great banter for us as alumni to say that, oh, you can see your school participating. But to each of the contestants, please know that we're really proud. This is one of the few times that Ghana shuts down, and it's not politics or sports or anything else. It's really an educational program. So the NMSQ team, Primetime Media, and the sponsors, you carry our hearts, and annually you can tell how that also helps schools raise funds in order for much needed improvement. So to the candidates and all the behind the scenes people, because I think it ends up being the winners sometimes, we really appreciate them. And to the sponsors that keep on adding innovation to build the quiz from strength to strength, and really say a big kudos. And to those who are maybe on the fence, because they think that maybe the quiz has arrived, there's so much more that can be done, right? So that's why some of us, you, Jacqueline, all Richard, as well as Aaron and Godfrey, we're dedicating our time. There's more that can be done that can even uplift the quiz and then help be targeted to the kind of Ghana and Africa we want to see. So a clarion call to all alumni, people who are fans of the quiz, sponsors, to continue and to do better to support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gamore. You've made my job very, very easy today. But viewers, let me bring in our fan favorite, Yabua Kankam, an old student of Kumasi High School and a data analytics expert at the global pharmaceutical firm AstraZeneca. Yabua is based in Maryland, USA. Boga, are you here?
Hi Jackie, I'm here. Yeah, I'm just in the background, listening and watching the big guys, lashing each other. I could see that Gamore is trying to lash Boutre and then Augusto as they deserve. Yep. So I'm happy to be here, Jackie. Yep. I'm always happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So what's your take on the grand finale? What's your summary on that?
Well, yeah, it looks like my prediction did come to pass on Butcher winning. It was such a show. It was like full of, emotions, like mixed feelings. And at some point I nearly had a heart attack because I'm like, oh my God, Butcher, don't disappoint me because, my bet was on them to definitely win, looking at how far they've come. They met like the bigger schools, like tiebreakers. It wasn't easy for them. So getting to the finals, I was really expecting them to win, and then they did justice to that. I think it was a nice show. I mean, the emotions, like I keep saying, the emotions part was what made me feel like, yeah, I'm really much into this. So the finals was one of the best finals that I've enjoyed. It was
Ab-
heartbreaking too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And who would you say your MVP is?
Well, my MVP, okay, I have two gentlemen.
Mhm.
One will be Peter from Mfantsipim. I feel like he is the heartbreaker. He always comes in. He has the nerves to always pick the, like the riddle, at that time is really like critical. So and then another person will also be Isaac Mensah. So between them, I think I'll go for Isaac Mensah. Peter is very good, but I'll go for Isaac Mensah because he will stay in the competition, but Peter gets like substituted and then he comes in. I feel like Isaac is in the competition throughout. He bears all the pressure and all those like difficult moments. And then one thing is that Isaac is very composed. Like he's always relaxed when he's answering the question. I don't know how he does it, but how he's able to sit down, like remain like composed and then give off his answers is
Mhm.
very exceptional. Yeah. So he's a plethora of, like confidence and then composure. So he will be my MVP.
Absolutely. And as the king of predictions, we want to know which schools are going to
Oh,
make it to the grand finale in 2025 and who will be your eventual winner. Let's see. I'm
okay.
hoping next year we'll do this and see who got the predictions right.
Well, this is always the hard part. So for predictions, from my unbiased, predictions, I think first person to be in the finals definitely will be PRSEC. I know they are going to come back very fierce for sure. They've done it before, and another school that I'll predict to be in the finals definitely will be Mfantsipim, because it will be very disappointing of them to be, recent champions and then they wouldn't be in the finals in 2025. And then for the last school, I'm really anticipating a school from Kumasi, so either Opokuare, Prempeh College, Kumasi High School, or say Tutu. One of them will feature in the finals because it was a disappointing, contest for Ashanti region schools, especially these, big boys, Kumasi High School, OAS, Prempeh College, and then also OT. So PRSEC, Boche, and then a boys school from Ashanti region.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, viewers, I guess you've heard our global panelists, right? Next year's competition is certainly going to be very explosive, and you do not want to miss this. Let me take an opportunity to thank our panelists, Emmanuel, Godfrey, and Aaron. Thank you so, so, so much for joining us today. A special thank you to Yabwa, who's also directing today's segment. He's not just a panelist, he's also directing. So thank you very much, Yabwa. We appreciate that. I also want to extend my gratitude to our panelist sources. So Kwejo Amo Gottfried. We also have Ebenezer and Justice Asamani, if I've got the name right, and also Lucy Brackle Adelaide for helping us source the panelists. A massive thank you to the Managing Director of Primetime and her team, of course, friends and family for all the support you've provided. Right, viewers, this is not the end. Primetime will be kicking off the STEM Festival from tomorrow at the Nat Hall in Accra. Please make sure you check their social media handles for more details. Viewers, you've heard from our global panelists. Next year's competition will certainly be very explosive and you do not want to miss it. I want to use this opportunity to thank our panelists, Emmanuel, Godfrey, Aaron, for joining us today for the special. Let me also extend my gratitude to Kwejo Amo Godfrey, Lucy Brackle Adelaide, and Ebenezer and Justice Asameni for helping us source the panelists. Thank you very much to the Managing Director of Primetime and her team, of course, friends and family, for all the support they've provided. Viewers, this is not the end for Primetime. They will be kicking off the STEM Festival from tomorrow at the Nat Hall in Accra. Please check their social media platforms for more information. Now, let me take the last opportunity to acknowledge our brilliant sponsors. The National Science and Maths Quiz is proudly sponsored by the Ghana Education Service in partnership with Gold PLC and supported by Joy News, Pepsodent, DuPay Money Transfer, Prudential Life Insurance Ghana, Bettermalt, ALX, Kivo, Bell Beverages, Flora Tissues, Coronation Insurance, Accra College of Medicine, University of Mines and Technology UMAT, Academic City University College, PMMC Jury, GTP, CHAS, YFM, and Gelmark Foundation. And of course, this is a Primetime production. I've been your host, Jacqueline Du Baffour, a management consultant for banking and pharmaceutical institutions, reporting live from London, UK. We hope you have a lovely Christmas and a productive 2025. We look forward to seeing you at the next year's championship. Take care and goodbye.
Bye-bye.